I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the shooting of a Kentucky judge in his own chambers by the local sheriff. And it's all on video. Why is the question that everyone is trying to figure out. Here's the story. Whitesburg, Kentucky is a small rural community of under 2,000 residents in eastern Kentucky. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other, a place where many folks have both personal and professional connections. And that was the situation with the local sheriff, Sean Mickey Stines, and the only judge in town, Kevin Mullins. Both had great reputations and were known especially for their work in trying to help their community battle the opioid epidemic, which was taking so many lives and destroying so many families. On September 19, 2024, the judge and the sheriff grabbed lunch together with some other people. Later that afternoon, the sheriff headed over to the judge's chambers. Once he got there, he went into the judge's office for a closed-door private meeting. What happened next, no one in this small town expected. The sheriff fired his gun several times, taking the life of Judge Mullins in his own chambers. Now, with Sheriff Mickey Stines charged with first-degree murder, everyone is wondering what is going on in this small Kentucky town. There was a lot of video evidence of that day, including the actual shooting is all caught on video. Now, what we're doing is we're going to freeze it at the moment that the shots are fired. But as you look at this, this is the crime. There's no sound to the video. It is video only. But you can see the judge desperately trying to save himself and hide from the sheriff, but the sheriff continues to pursue him. Then the sheriff's about to leave, but he notices that he's still moving and fires once again. And everyone's saying, why? Well, I think part of the way you get there to understand is you have to get inside his head. You need to get inside the head of this sheriff. And that's one place that we can't get to, likely until the trial. But we have all this video evidence, we have some audio as well, and we've got the actual killing on video. So all of this demonstrates what's going on, and you can observe it, you can see it, and in some cases you can hear it. And that brings me to the first question in our investigation, which is about the sheriff's behavior. What does the sheriff's behavior tell us about his mental state? All his actions that day, the way he appears, what he says, how he says it. Is this a premeditated, calculated killing? Is there something going on inside of his head? What does the evidence, the video, the audio tell us? Joining me, she's been covering this, the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube, closely following this case. Elizabeth Jones is with us, and joining us right now on the phone, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho is with us as well. So let's do this. I want to take a look at some video that we haven't really shown before. And this is the video before the shooting, way before the shooting, before lunch. And you can see the person closest to the bottom of the screen, that's the sheriff. And there's the judge and a few other guys. Everyone is there, and does anything appear off? Does anything appear wrong? This is at noon, just before they all go out to lunch. I mean, this seems a lot like a normal day. I want to start on this video. Elizabeth Jones, do we know anything about the folks that they were hanging out together before lunch?
Well, that's the first time I've seen that video. Thank you for having me. That looks to be like our circuit court clerk, Mike Watts, who's standing there next to the judge, and he is a great guy. And then we have Mickey sitting there in the bottom, and I can't really see very well who the other two are.
And from your coverage of all this and being there and living close by, Do we know who was at that lunch? And is it possible that some of these folks could have been at that lunch that sort of is in between this and then the shooting?
From what I have heard about that lunch, Mickey had been acting really funny for days, if not weeks, before this happened. And even his deputies had felt his odd behavior. And from what I was told, the deputies weren't actually sitting with Mickey at that lunch. So,
but there were deputies at the lunch, but they weren't with him?
Well, I was told that they were not sitting with him at that lunch.
Interesting. I want to show one more thing, and then we'll get to Dr. Judy Ho on some of this. We have some video now. This is from just after the shooting, and we've zoomed in on this, and you can see people getting out of that courthouse, but you will also see the sheriff exit the courthouse. And there he comes. I believe that's him coming down the steps in the white. He comes out. Now he is turning the corner and walking seemingly casually, and now turns the corner, and we have a different angle of the same thing happening as we can watch the sheriff. Again, this is just moments after the shooting, calmly walking out, walking past everyone. This is, and now you can see the responders are coming. It looks like he turns to them and may actually be talking to some of the officers who were responding to shots fired in the courthouse. But the shots were fired by him. And again, there he is. And now he is returning. He's coming back around that corner. You see the way he's walking. And now he's going back in, and we believe that he's going back in to turn himself in. Okay. Dr. Judy Ho. He's very calm afterwards. What does that tell us, if anything? He's with the victim before lunch, casually sitting in the chambers. Everyone seems to be friendly. What's going on here, Dr. Judy Ho?
Well, Vinny, this is very, very odd behavior, especially after the fact that he just essentially gunned down the judge. And usually you'd see that the person is probably going to be exiting quickly. They're certainly not going to return to the crime scene. Also, just as you pointed out, there was such a casual way about him, as if he's just strolling out, not even on the same plane as people who were essentially running away from the courthouse because they heard that shots were fired and were trying to get out of the dangerous situation that they were all in. And I've heard your podcaster guest mention that there were some peculiar behaviors possibly leading up to the shooting. And it does make me wonder, what was his mental state at the time? Because this does not, to me, look like a person who either, one, understands the gravity of what he did, but also, two, just the fact that the emotions are so misaligned. You do sometimes see that when somebody is undergoing, for example, a psychotic episode, among other types of mental health events.
Now we've got some more video from that day. Again, this is the day of the shooting. You can see this is when he's being arrested. He's walking by the front of the cruiser. He's going to be placed in the back and transported. Now, he's the sheriff at that moment of Letcher County, so he's not going to go and be incarcerated in Letcher County, the jail that he's in charge of. So the troopers are putting him in a cruiser, and they're going to transport him to another facility. Now, we also have video from the time he's being transported. You won't see the sheriff, but you will hear him because he's in the back seat. Let's listen.
Now, come on. Y'all gonna leave me in here and let me die of heat talk? No. I can't get up in there. Come on now. Come on.
I've been there, bro. Nobody's been there.
I can't. Yeah, man, I can't get in. These cuffs are way too tight. Come on now, guys. Come on now.
Keep going. I know it's tight. Keep quiet.
You may pick your leg up, bro.
Y'all got carbon monoxide in here. Come on now. Come on. I can't sit like this.
Slide sideways.
I can't. Come on now. Be fair to me.
We're being good to you, brother. You stick your leg up in there.
Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Please.
You want to scoot on over a little bit to the left?
Come on now.
Try to scoot on over a little bit more. That way we don't hit you. Can you go any bit farther? I just want to hit you with the door. Put your knee in there, my friend.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Bates. Hey, Bates. Can we loosen this up a little or give the window down?
I'm sorry.
Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man.
I got some air. I'll crack the window for you, but I can turn the air on back here. Okay?
Yeah. Be fair to me now.
I promise, man. Yeah, I promise.
God, please.
I promise.
Okay.
It's hot back here, man. I can't breathe.
Okay, Dr. Judy Ho, what are your thoughts here? This is the moment that he's put in the cruiser. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. It's hot in here. Be fair to me, boys.
Yeah, it's very possible that there's some recognition of what's actually happening. And I think, Vinnie, that it's extremely possible that he was in the middle of having a panic attack. And sometimes that happens, you know, especially when somebody is in hypervigilant state, when they're in a fight or flight state. I think he's starting to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm being put in the back of the cruiser. I'm being arrested. What's going to happen to me now? And, you know, sure, he might be uncomfortable, but the fact that he was repeating over and over again that sentiment of, I'm too hot, can you adjust something? Can you loosen this up? And he kept saying, come on now, come on now, come on now. Oftentimes when people are having a panic attack, there is a repetitive either vocal tic or a behavioral tic because they're trying to get themselves under control. And I'm not certain that he was able to think very straight in that moment. So he just kept repeating the same things over and over again, very basic words. It appears that he may have been having a panic attack just then.
Now, there's another statement he made, and we're going to play testimony from a state police detective who's going to talk about something else that the sheriff said on that day shortly after the shooting.
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
All right, Elizabeth Jones, they're trying to kidnap my wife and my kid. That is a statement, you know, we learned that early on, but we don't understand it. Does anyone out there understand what he meant when he said that?
That's still a big mystery, that part. But can I point out two things that I
Absolutely,
noticed
Elizabeth.
with that video? Okay. Number one, do you notice that nobody is running from the courthouse after that happened? They're all just sitting out on the front stoop with their hands in their lap. Nobody's running, and they haven't caught them. Number two, my second point, there were two ladies who were on the top floor of the courthouse when this happened. And one of them shared her experience with me right afterwards, and she said that she ran up to Mickey. She saw him on the sidewalk there after it happened. And she ran up to him and hugged him and told him to be careful because there was a shooter in the courthouse.
Wow. Unreal. This is an unreal story. Dr. Judy Ho, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Elizabeth Jones is going to stay with us. We've got more to get to. Up next, would an insanity defense work in this case?
There will be an issue as to criminal responsibility.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now?
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record.
They were broken up, and he was still madly in love with her.
He didn't think that he was a batterer. And I said, hey, man, you hit her. You're a batterer.
This is a murder case. They felt it had nothing to do with the murders. Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? A Court TV original series. New episode Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
What we have spoken with Mr. Steele about is that we do believe that there will be an issue as to criminal responsibility. We have consulted with, folks with regards to that issue. I reached out to Mr. Steele and we basically decided that we would raise this as a joint motion. I know that, once we provide that notice, the Commonwealth is entitled to have their expert evaluate Mr. Stines. And out of expediency, I believe that Mr. Steele and I would ask for an order for that evaluation to go ahead and take place.
What I would recommend is that we go ahead and get the order entered in regards to competency and criminal responsibility. I might as well go ahead and that addressed since we're going to be doing that.
So Mickey Stines, the former sheriff, will be getting and is getting psychological evaluations, which brings us straight to the next question in our investigation. Would an insanity defense work in this case? Some sort of mental disease or defect? What was going on with the sheriff? We saw the way he acted afterwards. We've heard about what people were saying about how he was acting beforehand. Still with me, Elizabeth Jones, and joining me, representing the woman suing Mickey Stines, Ned Pillersdorf is with us as well. Ned, also a great criminal defense attorney in Kentucky. Thank you both. Elizabeth, a little more information. You mentioned that people were saying he was acting odd. In what sense was he acting odd? Was he delusional? Was he paranoid? Did anyone get a sense for what made them think he was acting odd?
Well, they said that he had not slept in days and that he was acting really paranoid and that he was in fear for his life. His aunt is who he stayed with, from what I've learned, for a couple days before this happened. And what has been told is that he walked all night. He never laid down.
Ned Pillersdorf, let me ask you, he's being evaluated. We're hearing some of the observations people are making about how he was acting beforehand, leading up to the time of the shooting. What are your thoughts about an insanity defense in this case?
This is clearly not a defendant who has your typical insanity defense. Generally an insanity defense is someone who's got a history of schizophrenia, delusional beliefs. This is more nuanced. It really goes back to, his defense attorney. I'm sure the first question they asked him, why did you do it? And he clearly had some intense beliefs that caused him to act in such bizarre, unbelievable conduct. So it's not your typical insanity defense. It's more, we would call it, as a criminal defense lawyer, the way you lose a case like this is the jury believes the deceased is the victim, that he did nothing wrong and he was killed for no reason. What I suspect is going on is, and the fact that Stines wants to be tried in his home county, he is going to try to make it look like Sheriff Judge Mullins was not really a victim, that what caused all this was some type of conduct that Mullins himself caused that provoked Stines to act in the unbelievable way he did. This is, as I've said before, this is, by the way, John Grisham could not have imagined these crazy facts.
No,
but to me,
it's beyond.
There's two ways to look at this. One is Stines' defense will likely be that Mullins did something that so inflamed him. And where the request for funds for psychological defense is basically to tell that story. And
then have the story come into evidence perhaps through the expert rather than the sheriff having to take the stand?
That's one reason, although I would suspect Stines will take the stand.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's the sheriff.
Let me ask, I want to ask Elizabeth one thing, just about folks on the ground there, right? Do you think they would buy some sort of insanity defense? Do you think they would say, oh, well, yeah, he had to be insane to do what he did?
No, there are two different reputations here. Mickey had a completely different reputation in this county than the judge did. The judge had somewhat of a ladies' man and maybe not so good reputation. Mickey was, looked at as salt of the earth, family man, would help anybody. I mean, there's always going to be a handful of people that don't get along with him and don't like him. But for the majority of the people in this county, as soon as this incident happened, it was blind loyalty and support no matter what happened. If Mickey did this, then there had to be a good reason for it.
Wow.
That's the majority of the view.
And that's right in sync with what Ned is saying here. All right, Elizabeth and Ned are going to stay with us. We've got a lot more to cover. Was the shooting connected to the sextortion scandal? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the shooting of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins by Sheriff Mickey Stines. This case involves allegations of sex, extortion, and murder. Here's the story. Appalachia is part of eastern Kentucky where the towns are small and the folks all look out for each other. There's a lot of respect for law enforcement and the justice system. And folks who work in that system get to know each other very well. And that was the case for the local sheriff, Mickey Stines, and his friend, District Judge Kevin Mullins. But like any place, sometimes there is controversy. In Letcher County, it was a deputy who got caught sexually assaulting female inmates in the judge's chambers after hours. That deputy was the bailiff for Judge Kevin Mullins and worked under Sheriff Mickey Stines. That was a couple of years ago. But now, everyone is taking another look at that case because something else happened in the judge's chambers. The judge was shot and killed, and Sheriff Mickey Stines is the one being charged with first-degree murder of a public official, and it was all caught on camera. I want to zero in on this sextortion case because this is, again, these two things happening in the same place involving some of the same people? Is it a coincidence? What's going on here? So Ben Fields, this is the man who got caught and prosecuted. Former Letcher County deputy pleaded guilty to raping a female prisoner who was on home incarceration. Civil lawsuit by several women claim that Fields used his position to pressure them into sex. District Judge Kevin Mullins, one of the sexual encounters between Fields and the victim occurred in Judge Mullins' chambers in the Letcher County Courthouse. Fields was his bailiff. Sheriff Mickey Stines, named in the civil lawsuit, accused of failing to properly train and supervise Fields. 3 days, just 3 days before the shooting, Stines was deposed in that civil case. Now, I want you to take a listen to this audio recording of one of the accusers in the civil lawsuit, talking about what was going on and what she has seen. Absolutely jaw-dropping, her allegations.
But he does have some videotapes of some stuff in the judge's chambers.
What kind of stuff?
Just with girls, sexual and stuff.
What describe? Have you seen the videos?
I've seen one partly, and you know, just them having sex with girls for their bail to get out of jail.
Who was having sex?
Ben and just some higher ups up there.
Who?
The judge and.
Now you saw the video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you see on the video? I mean, you.
I mean, I've seen Judge Mullins having sex with a girl.
Who was the girl?
I don't know, because I don't know a lot of people from over there.
Where was it at?
In his office, in the judge's chambers.
Is that the same place that you were meeting Ben? Is that how you know it was the judge's chambers?
Yeah.
And this was Judge who?
Mullins.
But you saw the video of the judge.
Yes.
Any other videos that you actually saw?
No. Mm-mm. They say that the Sheriff Vinnie Stines is involved. I don't know.
Who said that?
Chad. He said he had videos with Mickey. And Mickey used to do the same thing when he was over house arrest.
So Mickey Stines used to be the bailiff and a deputy before he was sheriff, and there's an accusation there. Now, all of this came to light, these recordings from the investigation that was being done by the state. They're the ones who released this audio because it's a public record. But you've got the sextortion taking place, then you've got the shooting taking place. Is it a coincidence or not? Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Was the shooting connected to the sextortion scandal? Could it possibly be a coincidence? Or is there a nexus here? Joining me, the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. You've got to take a look at the work that she's doing out there. She's closely following this case, Elizabeth Jones, and representing the woman suing Sean Mickey Stines. Ned Pillersdorf is with us. Okay, let me ask you, Elizabeth, what is going on here? Did you hear about this sextortion before the shooting, or did all this come to light for you at the same time that it did for us? Like, we didn't hear about this thing beforehand. You're on the ground there. Was this a big deal before the shooting of the judge?
There have been rumors about the judge's chambers for years and years and years. They just didn't really come out and say who was in the judge's chambers. But one of the things that I found really, really interesting when I went through the depositions was in Mickey's, we find out that Ben was sent for a polygraph and that he admitted to having sexual relations while he was on duty when he worked at the jail, and admitting that he drank on the job when he worked at the jail. And the way that that polygraph came to Mickey was that all he did was read the cover page. And so apparently there's a loophole in there somewhere where they can just admit to their crimes and their wrongs, and as long as they don't lie in the polygraph, they're suitable for hire.
It's mind-boggling, all of this. Now, obviously, Ned, you're connected with that civil litigation. I want you, though, before you answer this question, I want you to take a listen to Mickey's attorney answering this question.
Do you know whether this is connected to the federal lawsuit he was a part of? Is there any connection between these?
I think that the timing of what occurred is certainly something that is going to be a crucial point in this case. The timing of the deposition, amongst other things and other background information that will complete that story. But I do, yes, to answer your question, I do believe that that is a piece. This is a large story that's a story that in some ways is difficult to tell. We look forward to sharing a more complete version of that as we go through this judicial process.
All right, Ned, what are you thinking here? When he says it's a piece, and there they're specifically talking about the lawsuit, but are the other pieces the total scandal that was taking place, apparently, with all these women who were going to drug court and then were being coerced into these and being abused?
Stines is well represented by his attorney, and on several occasions he keeps saying that somehow the lawsuit that I'm involved in played a role in this situation. The lawsuit was a sweeping lawsuit. I mean, we basically alleged that they turned that courthouse, and I've used the word, into a brothel. Fields, we know, we're convinced, hit on at least 3 different women, and this went on for a while. Now, was Stines involved? Our lawsuit doesn't accuse Stines of being personally involved. It basically says he knew or should have known. And in fairness to Stines and the defendants, they deny the allegations. My co-counsel took Stines' deposition in my office. I was there. And then 3 days later, the shooting happened. And my first thought was, is this all related? The lawsuit, we filed it, I think in January, about 2 years ago. The video you played of Miss Atkins, who we represent, the timing of that's interesting. That was actually what's called a proffer. Before Fields was indicted, the Attorney General's office came down and interviewed Miss Atkins for several hours. I was actually sitting there and gave that information. Generally when I file a civil rights lawsuit, typically the prosecution arm doesn't really want to come in and help my clients because we're generally suing police officers or, public officials. But I think what happened in this particular case, Fields had texted my client and left no doubt this was going on. Thereafter, and I give the Attorney General's office high marks, not only did they indict Stines, they then actually went to a criminal mediation. Take that back, they indicted Fields. I misspoke. And Fields actually pled guilty. And this was not a no contest plea, Vinnie. And in Kentucky, you just can't walk into the courtroom and say, I want to plead guilty. There's a plea bargain I like. You actually have to be under oath and say, I did this. And he pled guilty to the sexual acts with Miss Atkins and actually perjury involving Miss Atkins when he actually swore out a warrant for her for bail jumping. And of course, the bail jumping was she'd cut off the sex and she was no longer on the ankle bracelet. So it's important to point out that Fields had pled guilty, was under oath and said, I did this. How is this all connected to the shooting? His lawyer says that's part of the defense.
It's going to be
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that's going to bring us to our next question, and still to come. What is the missing piece in all of this?
Maybe we're almost to the jail. One last time. Is there anything you want? Just anything to do with your family?
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The Celebrity Stylist Murder Trial. Weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Where y'all taking me to? Don't hurt me now, boys. We told you guys, come on. Come on now, guys. No guys. This is not the jail. This is not the jail now. Okay, Mickey, anyway, so, do you want to talk about it? This is to do with anything with your family, your daughter, or anything? Bring one in. Who are you passing me off to? Leslie. We talked about it. This is Letcher County Jail. Who you passing me off to, though?
No, ain't
Nobody. He knows the way here. We didn't know the way.
He knew the way
yeah.
here.
Y'all are passing me off here now to somebody. Mickey, I don't know why you think this. Y'all are going to let somebody hurt me. Yeah. Come on now, guys. Be fair.
I hope we will be.
Yeah. Don't pass me off to nobody.
The only people we're passing you off to is the jailers inside. Just to do it.
And there you could hear the voice of Mickey Stines, fearing something, scared of something, expressing that. Where am I going? You're going to hurt me. Be fair. You're going to hurt me. Be fair. So we've got this video and audio of him afterwards. We have video of the shooting. We have video of what was happening beforehand. Yet I still don't understand what happened here. Brings me to the next question in our investigation. It's like a puzzle. What is the missing piece here? Or is it missing pieces? Still with me, Elizabeth Jones and Ned Pillersdorf. I want to begin with you, Elizabeth, on what we just heard from the sheriff. What do you think's going on here? Does this sound like paranoia to you, or does he have like a real reason to be in fear?
Well, I initially thought it was very paranoid behavior. But then his lawyer gave that last interview, and he said that Mickey was in a very unique position where he implicated that Mickey was aware of other people's behavior in the courthouse, and that he was afraid that he had already said or that he was getting ready to say the wrong thing, or that he already had said the wrong thing. And I kind of looked at that a little bit differently with the deposition that he did at Ned's office, because one of the things that I noticed in all of the depositions, Mickey had an attorney that represented him in his official capacity, but Daniel Dotson was there to represent him in his a personal capacity. And after that deposition was when Mickey was not sleeping, he was not living at his home. And I just kind of wonder, there have been several people that said that he went to that lawyer's office first before he went to the courthouse, but the lawyer wasn't there.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. I mean, that's the closest I've heard of anything that could get us to that missing piece, that something happened, Ned, during that deposition where maybe he's saying something or implicating someone or saying the wrong thing, which could put him in danger because, you know, the old cliche, he knows too much. What are your thoughts there, Ned?
No, I mean, it is a real puzzle. What's going on here? The sheriff, in my view, acted oddly during his deposition. And the best way to describe it, when he made his initial first appearance after he was arrested, the judge asked him very direct questions, and there were long pauses. A couple times he didn't answer at all, which is odd behavior. This is a sheriff who's used to being in the courtroom and used to listening to a judge ask questions. You know,
so you're talking about guarded answers, like wanting, and we're looking at video. This is after the lunch. You see Mickey walking back to the courthouse, and you see some of the folks who I guess were at the lunch following, and there he is leaving. Let me put this up on the screen too, because I think there's some other things going on here. This is from News Nation. Sources tell News Nation that Stines and his wife had some sort of a dispute the night before Mullins was fatally shot in his chambers. The spat put him out of the house for the night. Here's Jeremy Bartley, his attorney, addressing rumors that he was not living at home at the time.
Is it true he was not living at home when this happened?
That's untrue.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth, you said you've heard that he stayed at his aunt's home that night, but didn't really stay there, was out walking all night. Were there problems at home? Because I believe I've seen his family in court supporting him.
Yeah, they've been in all of the court hearings with him. What I have heard was that it was just the last few nights right before the shooting at the courthouse. And at first, people were kind of saying, the rumors were saying that she had threw him out. But the more and more that I talked to some people, it sounds more like he left on his own because he was so fearful for his life.
Wow. Trying to put together this missing piece. It seems that lunch meeting may have been important as well. I want to play Clayton Stamper, a detective from the Kentucky State Police, talking about the lunch meeting that day, because this, again, is relatively close in time to when the shooting happens. Let's watch and listen.
Prior in the day, there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins.
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Street Side, and it's just down the street from the courthouse.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Okay, Ned, again, trying to find that missing piece of all of this. And we've got this video coming back from that luncheon. The judge is the one who calls for this private meeting, not wanting to talk about whatever they were talking about in front of other people at the luncheon. That's got to be, I would think, that sounds like it's connected to the lawsuit and the sextortion that was taking place.
You know, you could maybe connect the dots there, you know, but to keep in context the lawsuit, what was going on, it's kind of why I agreed to do the civil rights case. You know, you do a case, one, for two reasons. One, to help the people in front of you. The other thing going on is these women in ankle bracelets, Vinnie, they're so vulnerable to sextortion. Yeah. You know, they know a simple phone call to
Ned,
the judge.
I hate doing this. I'm out of time. We are going to talk again about this. Ned Pillersdorf, Elizabeth Jones, Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. Thank you both so much. So much to get to in this case. You know, it's amazing how we have video of the alleged murder, very clear video, yet we still do not fully understand what happened here. And I'll tell you why. That's because crime is about much more than the physical act. It's about the mental state, the mens rea. And until we understand that, we will still have many more questions. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for the answers as the investigation continues.